Your Highness, the transmission we received. What is it they've sent us?
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and that's right. It's a dead Carrie Fisher's fault that Kelly Marie Tran didn't get more lines in The Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, that's an actual article written on Jezebel.com that we're going to poke fun at and have a bit of a laugh. Look, in the 2-hour and 30-minute finale to the saga, the modern-day Disney Star Wars trilogy, there leaves a lot to be desired. In fact, the film could have easily been 30 minutes longer, and it still would not have sewn up all of the loose ends that the trilogy had created over the past 6 years. Nonetheless, I would have liked to see more of those tied up. I would have also liked to see a little more dialogue out of Kylo Ren, probably my favorite character in the modern series. And look, I think there was room for more dialogue from Kelly Marie Tran's Rose Tico character, even though I don't think like fan interest is as much as it really is on Twitter. Remember that Twitter represents a tiny, tiny, tiny portion of the actual fandom, and it's easy to like get trapped in the Twitter fandom. It's the same reason that, you know, you see the Rotten Tomato score and you're like, how could it possibly be 80% or 75%? Well, there are a lot of normies out there. This headline from The Muse: The Rise of Skywalker creators say it's Carrie Fisher's fault Kelly Marie Tran wasn't in the movie. A longer but perhaps more honest title for the new film Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker might be Low Stakes Space Quibbles, Please Stop Yelling at Us. And what this is referring to is obviously the critics' biggest problem with this film, and that is that much of it was fan service. The entire film views like an apology for fans upset by the last Star Wars film's attempt to let girls play too. And part of the apology seems to include giving The Last Jedi's breakout star, Kelly Marie Tran, as little to do in the Rise of Skywalker as possible. Wow, there are so many lies in just one sentence. First of all, Rose Tico was absolutely, undeniably, provably not a breakout star. She was a joke side character in The Last Jedi who is largely memed on. This has nothing to do with Kelly Marie Tran, I want to be very clear, but I need to correct that statement. They also went on to say that this has something to do with not letting women be powerful, and I have a huge problem with that too, given Daisy Ridley's character, Rey, is the most powerful character probably in Star Wars history and manages to one-shot Palpatine all by herself. That is an undeniable truth of the Star Wars franchise, the modern day one. They made Rey OP and practically flawless because they were so desperate to have a strong female character, even though historically they've had many strong female characters in the Star Wars universe. But according to the film's creators, it's not a low-stakes way to appease fans riled up by having an Asian actress participate in the franchise. It's actually Carrie Fisher's fault. Now, that sentence also serves as a half-handed the guys, you know, it's a little bit of a backhanded way to call the Star Wars fandom, to allude that the Star Wars fandom had some sort of problem with Kelly Marie Tran because she's Asian, which is also, again, of course, verifiably false. In a recent interview with Awards Daily, Rise of Skywalker screenwriter Chris Terrio said that he and director J.J. Abrams totally wanted to have Tran do a lot of acting, but that diva Carrie Fisher wouldn't cooperate posthumously in the CGI footage. One of the reasons that Rose had few less scenes was that we'd like her than we would liked her to was the difficulty of using Carrie's footage in the way we wanted to. He said, we wanted Rose to be the anchor as the rebel who was with Leia. We thought we wouldn't leave Leia at the base without any of the principals who we love. So Leia and Rose were working together. In the Star Wars universe, Tran's character Rose Tico is a resistance engineer whose sister Paige was ended early in The Last Jedi. In the film, Rose plays a pivotal role in a high-stakes mission. It was Tran's first film role, and a thank you for her efforts. She was harassed off social media by a subset of racist Star Wars fanatics who get angry when women in the film do more than be rescued in gold bikinis. Of course, verifiably false again. This article is so enraging, it's hilarious. Instead of writing new scenes that would have given Tran's character at least a satisfying resolution as one they gave to the robots, when they realized the CGI wasn't going to work out, the men in charge chose to simply have her run around and gape at all the Gary space tension for a few seconds every 30 minutes or so. The men in charge. You mean Kathleen Kennedy, the one that has final sign-off on this film? You mean the Kathleen Kennedy who wore the t-shirt, "The Force is Female"? You mean Disney, whose president Bob Iger has said publicly that Disney is all about strong female characters going forward and that they are going to go out of their way to produce those types of characters? Ridiculous. Kelly Marie Tran is a symbol of new Star Wars fandom and you Star Wars fandom. The fans that aren't really fans of the franchise but glom onto it to push ideologies on people, to get clickbait articles because they don't have anything interesting to say without putting Star Wars in the title. I suppose ironically, maybe that's true of me too. My critics might say that of me. But nonetheless, nobody in any significant numbers has any problem with female characters in Star Wars. That's ridiculous. Maybe trans exclusion from the film can be chalked up to the difficulty of editing in the sorely missed Carrie Fisher as General Leia, but these are men who are widely considered the best in the business at creating big-budget, widely appealing franchises, and if they had really wanted to give trans something to do, it seems like they must have been good enough at their jobs to find a way. More likely, the narrative is the result of studio attempting to remove any Star Wars elements that get the, quote, fans, as they put it in parentheses, by the way, rile up to avoid controversy and maximize profits. Well, this, again, is, of course, verifiably false, because if you want to point out any one thing that Disney has done to rile up the Star Wars fandom, it's the insertion of a Mary Sue in Daisy Ridley character's Rey. If you want to talk about anything that gets fans riled up, it's about disrespecting Luke Skywalker. It's about disrespecting the past at the expense of the future. It's the inability to write interesting characters, strong characters, deep characters, without putting them on the shoulders of men's failures. Even Rey still needed men to fail to then become the supreme leader that it is revealed to be Rey Skywalker at the end of the film. There's no limit to the amount of maddening things that were in The Rise of Skywalker that angered the original fandom. So, of course, you could discount the fact that this one thing was edited out to appease the fans. I don't think that fans necessarily hated Rose Tico so much as the fact that they wanted more out of the original characters. You didn't give us enough about Kylo Ren or even Daisy Ridley's Rey character to spend time on Finn and Rose Tico and other side characters. You didn't spend time building those characters up in the first two movies of the trilogy. So why did you spend any time, or why would you spend any time on them in the saga finale, which is exactly what I think J.J. Abrams recognized. He recognized that, quite honestly, nobody cared about Rose Tico outside of Twitter. None of the fandom really cared about her, and the only reason the new fans care about her on Twitter is because she's Asian and a woman. And they think, well, this is reason enough that she should be getting large amounts of screen time. Yeah, we're not happy with the fact that we have Rey, Daisy Ridley's character, the most powerful Jedi of all time, also a woman. That's not enough. All the characters must be women or minorities, and that's just the narrative. I mean, I don't... Of these loud... the loud minority of new fans, I should say. That's not the narrative of regular, everyday fans. Most people just want a good story with good actors. I can't imagine what it's like living life, watching movies, and worried about the skin color of all the actors and actresses in it. What a pathetic way to get through the day. These people, it's no wonder that they're exceedingly unhappy and so venomous online, because they must not be able to enjoy any little thing in life at all. The article finishes, perhaps optimistically, it's simply a side effect of putting an epic narrative into the hands of an all-white, predominantly male writing team and production team that didn't quite realize the audience would miss her. But sure, go ahead and blame Carrie Fisher. I don't think that the audience missed Rose Tico at all. The stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of Rose Tico clearance action figures at Walmart and other toy stores prove that the fandom didn't like her. They didn't, I shouldn't say that that doesn't mean that they disliked her. That means that they didn't relate to her, that the character wasn't written well enough to connect to, that there wasn't enough stakes for people to identify with Rose Tico, and that's supposedly supposed to be everybody's fault now. To be honest with you, most of the characters in the new trilogy are forgettable, and that's the fault of having too many writers, too many missing pieces, not the fault of the skin color of the writers. Imagine that if they were Asian writers, what would that have done differently? What would you have done differently in the movie? The fact that Kelly Marie Tran is supposed to just be bequeathed all these lines in the movie simply by her skin color proves one of the major problems with the social justice narrative of this movie. None of the arguments are around how great of an actress Kelly Marie Tran is. None of these articles are about how many fans really loved her. It's always her skin color, more lines. As transparent of a take as you can possibly get. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.